Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Sunshine State, which is known as Florida. And today's date, Tuesday, September 6th, 2016. Yeah, it's been the past couple weeks I haven't done a show. Just been trying to get a few things happening, and it's going to occur this week. So actually, I am in Kissimmee, Florida to be exact, south of Orlando. And you can hear the crickets and all that. The bugs are out here. Hey, that's part of the real Florida, I would say. Yeah, I just man, now I know why I hate watching television. Been watching, Supernatural and I say NCIS, but it just gets like really sucks your brain out. I'm like, good grief. I was like going a little bit crazy and get a little moody too at the same time. So I had to like say, what the hell? I gotta at least get something going. It's been a while. I know everyone's talking about the whole Colin Kaepernick protest with him sitting down doing the national anthem. Wow, a lot of other stuff is happening. They all want to focus on an athlete. Give me a break. He may have some good points, I would say, about corruption and tyranny, but if he just believes only for one particular group, I don't. I'm not saying he does. He does. Just to let him know and all his supporters we're all in the same corporate plantation. That's how you gotta look at it. Doesn't matter what you look like, where you from, we're all in the same corporate plantation. So it's and of course, my dog's doing fine. But it's been raining all over the weekend. Of course, had some of the squalls from Hermine, and of course CNN and weather channels make a big thing about damage was done. Hey, it happens. It's a hurricane, but a lot of things could be worse. So had to like get that off my chest. So I'm just gonna do maybe a nice possible long episode. I won't say too long. I'll just try to punch out everything I got here. Just had a few things I was looking at and find it very interesting. Of course, I got to thank all the folks that share their info on other sites. Always give them homage for taking initiative on supporting the cause, I would say. We're all in this together, my friends, no matter where you live. All right, well, here's going to be a little announcement. I know everybody's still the whole week on History Channel and A&E and Discovery. Doesn't matter. All these shows are going to be talking about 9/11. That's all it's going to be. Almost September 11th. What happened on September 11th, 2001. And they're still going to shove it down our throats by saying they attacked us because of our freedoms without any merit. People that heard my show and know me personally, I never bought that deception. Not tooting my horn, but I've always observed responsibly. So it's from Paul Craig Roberts. It's here. It's on a conference to clear the mind of the 9/11 brainwashing. And it says here, quarterly two donations. Nope, never mind. All the donations. Now it says here, a 2-day symposium on September 10th and 11th. So this weekend at Cooper Union, New York City. This year, 15 years after the events of 9/11, wars and cultural conflicts caused by the U.S. response to questionable alliances continue to create global tensions. Furthermore, questions of how the attacks took place continue to surface. For these reasons, the historic event highlighting the blatant discrepancies of the official narrative will be held to critic science-based evidence of the most consequential event of our time. A stellar lineup of credentialed experts will also review new evidence of a cover-up, such as is revealed in the declassification of the 28 pages and the rise the bar literally, with an unprecedented levels of legal analysis. As you'll see, This event has an international component since 9/11 was such a world-changing event. For details and tickets are at www.justiceinfocus.org. And it says here, continue on. Day one program will feature keynote address re-owned by public interest attorney Daniel Sheenan, who litigate the Pentagon Papers case, the Karen Silkwood case, Iran Contra scandal, and 3 Mile Island. That was in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, near Harrisburg, the whole meltdown that happened over there. Like, man, almost 30 years. Man, time flies. Keynote address by Judge Fernando Impasamato, head of the Supreme Court of Italy, with experience prosecuting conspiratorial crimes, notably Operation Gladio. Richard Gage from Architects and Engineers, AIA founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, which currently has over 2,600 professionals from building trades as signatories. And I have the honor to meet him down in Miami Memorial Day weekend, and Erickson Harrow was there too, who was the one who wore the Guy Fawkes mask, who was a police officer for North Miami Beach, city of North Miami Beach in Florida to be exact. And one interesting thing about that is a friend of mine asked a good legitimate question, stating to Richard Gage, "Have you been threatened? Have you ever been threatened since discussing this?" He goes, "No, I am, and I'm very disappointed." And I think it's cute because we all had to laugh because he wasn't afraid to speak his mind and see things what happened during that time, which is a lot bigger than they want us to know. So definitely, it was very good, and I might just add a rethink 9/11 reexamine 9/11. I don't know, rethink 9/11.org. I'm gonna add that to the memo, so at least people can know more about him if you haven't yet. We'll continue on here. Professor Leroy Husley from the University of Alaska, who is conducting a unique, unbiased, independent modeling of the collapse of the World Trade Center 7. Unique analysis of ISIS, the latest on the secret 28 pages and related legislation, which has begun to reveal the official deception and questionable geopolitical alliances to the widest audience ever reached in this 15-year effort. I always tell folks, ISIS is New World Order funded. ISIS, ISIL, another boogeyman term. The 9/11 Truth Project, the next level of national organizing. Speakers include government whistleblower Wayne Madsen, former NSA analyst, and J. Michael Springman, former State Department Foreign Services officer. TV news and personality, media critic, and attorney, also known as Lionel. Bob McAlvin. McIvan. Hope I pronounced his name correctly. A 9/11 family member. Dylan Avery, creator of the globally reowned 9/11 documentary Loose Change. Master of ceremony will be Mark Crispin Miller, professor of media culture and communication at Network University. For the 2-day program, there will be a sequence of legal presentations analyzing key strategies and many yet unaddressed evidentiary issues. These include presentation of legal standards and key evidence, 9/11 related litigation to date, pending and planned FOIA requests, appeals, and litigation, future U.S. litigation options, potential for an international investigation. Speakers include public attorney Daniel Sheenan. Okay, I got all those guys. I'm going to bring it down here. Mike Harrison. First two is public. I'll repeat again. What the hell? Public interest attorney Daniel Sheenan, Judge Fernando Impazzimato, honorary president of the Supreme Court of Italy, Mike Harrison, whistleblower litigation expert, William Veal and Mustafa Nandanusa, attorneys for April Gallup Pentagon survivor. Interesting. Wow, man. David Meiswinkle, New Jersey litigation former police officer. Barbara Hanagger, State Department whistleblower, author of October Surprise. Andrew Krieg, journalist and attorney. Engineers, David Chandler, Jonathan Cole, Tony Zambati, architect. Richard Gage from Architects and Engineers, or AIA. And it's going to go on here. Master ceremony will be Dr. William Pepper, international civil rights attorney, litigator for family of Dr. Martin Luther King, and author of Act of State. Why should you attend this powerful event? Since justice and rule of law is the foundation of any civilized society. The commitment to face all the facts of 9/11 will power us as a culture to move forward and reestablish our position of trust and integrity in the world. In so many ways, our future depends on it. Make plans today. It'll be from September 10th and 11th. That's this weekend from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Cooper Union, which is located at 7 East 7th Street, Manhattan, which is right along the intersection of 7th Street and 3rd Avenue. Once again, for more details and tickets, go to www.911justiceinfocus.org. I have to say this. If I had the money, I would have hustled up there immediately. It's going to be one incredible event. I can tell you that, my friends. And I am so happy that more people are learning about this. And even in the past, people laughed at me when I informed them that it was a New World Order agenda. Not anymore. Now, some of them that laughed are asking me questions. We're sharing information, including my older brother. He admitted that to me at first. And of course, I forgave him. I wasn't angry with him at all. But he realized, hey, I wasn't, I just see things a lot bigger than many of us, many people out here. Now, I'm not the only one. Because even Richard Gage admitted he was a Reagan Republican. He had the American flag. He was getting ready to go bomb these bastards. But he changed his tune as well, asking questions, look at his material. So definitely, folks, when you have this chance, if you're in the area, go, man. Go, bring everyone out there that you know, love. Even recommend this to your enemies because they may learn something also. And I always tell this to folks. I remember the time I had a signature on my old email address when I announced, when I declared it a New World Order agenda by saying September 14th, 2001. I stated on my signature. I kept it for 4 years. It says death to terrorism, corruption, and a New World Order, so we can ensure true peace, security, and spiritual prosperity. And at first, I didn't really get any responses. In a period of time, people coming up to me, see me in person, and go, brother, I like your signature. It's powerful, and it got me thinking. That's the way you have to do things. Use your anger with productivity, in especially cases like this. It still is a hot button for me, as an example, why innocent people have to suffer from it. It's time to get justice for these innocents that were murdered and bring those scumbags in, indicted. I don't care if it's treason, first degree murder, it doesn't matter. Anyone's involved is a conspirator, an accessory. And I remember the time, too, when Christine Todd Whitman made a statement about the air quality a few days after 9/11, or 4 or 5 days after 9/11. She made a statement, there's nothing to worry about. I wish, you know, I really want to. I want to go right through the screen and just punch her right in the mouth. Go, send this to your puppet master. And I digress. You could tell her, I don't give a damn. I know she was a patsy, a bell girl, a bend over Barbie to the one world order. I have no shame of saying that. Including some of the bobblehead candidates. You see these stupid commercials, okay, about even Hillary Clinton talking about she's for the people. She's a bald-faced liar, another Jezebelian harlot. to that same entity. So that was gonna be everyone's gonna be talking about September 11th. We gotta be patriots and all that. You want to support true patriotism? You call these bastards out. That's why, like I said before, I'm not gonna watch any of these shows on this. I'll be insulted, especially when Giuliani. He never answered the question: where are the 40% of the other bodies that were missing? Luke Rodowski brought that up when We Are Change. Like him or not, he has merit. So definitely, like I'll say once again, anyone can attend, do it. And hopefully they'll have a video on this as well, video download and all that, so everyone can see it. Because I would love to see this too, myself. So this is why, I'll say this again, to fight the real war on terror, we have to defend it. We have to use our Bill of Rights culture. Defend it, protect it, preserve it. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And to the people around the world, I know you'll attest to that too. Everyone out there have the capabilities of being spiritually free. Be free-spirited individuals out there. Because it affects the entire planet. It's just another example of what these sons of bitches will try to do, have us live in fear. Now it's backfiring little by little. And that's all I'm going to discuss on this. Next one, an interesting, antiwar.com retweeted it. It's titled from closeguantanamo.org. And it says here, tortured high-value detainees arrived at Guantánamo exactly 10 years ago, but still there is no justice. 14 high-value detainees who arrived at Guantánamo from CIA black sites on September 6, 2006. This is by Arthur Andy Worthington. Exactly 10 years ago, on September 6, 2006, President Bush announced that secret CIA prisons whose existence he had always denied in fact existed, but had now been closed down, and the prisoners held moved to Guantánamo. 14 men in total were transferred to Guantánamo. 3 were named by President Bush. Abu Zubaydah, described as a senior terrorist leader and a trusted associate of Osama bin Laden, and Khalid Shaikh Mohammed, and Razmi bin al-Shabi, allegedly involved in the 9/11 attacks. Hey, Jorge, how about you and your scumbag sidekick, Richard Cheney, and your other cronies? Biographies of the 14 were made available and can be found here. There's a link for that, by the way, so please check it out. They include 3 other men allegedly involved in the 9/11 attacks: Walid bin Atash, Ammar al-Bulchi, and Mustafa al-Hazawahi, plus Abid al-Rahman al-Nashir, allegedly involved in the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000. Ahmad Khalaf Galani, a Tanzanian allegedly involved in a U.S. embassy bombing in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. Majid Khan, a Pakistani alleged to be an al-Qaeda plotter in the U.S., the Indonesian Hambali, and 2 Malaysians, Zubair and Lili, the Libyan Abu Farjad al-Libi, and Somali Gauld Hassan Darad. After the men's arrival, they were not heard from until spring 2007, when combatant status review tribunals were held, which were required to make them eligible for military commission trials. As I explained in my book, The Guantanamo Files, in 2007, KSM and Walid bin Atash confessed to involvement with terrorism, although others were far less willing to make any kind of confession. Ammar al-Balchi, for example, nephew of KSM, and another of the alleged 9/11 co-conspirators, denied advanced knowledge of the 9/11 attacks or of al-Qaeda. As I describe it, Ammar al-Balchi was adamant that he had no involvement with terrorism and was dismissive of allegations that he worked on a bomb plot with Walid bin Atash. Although he admitted transferring money on behalf of some of the 9/11 hijackers, he insisted he had no knowledge of either 9/11 or Al Qaeda, was a legitimate businessman who regularly transferred money for Arabs without knowing it would be used for. His story was backed by his uncle, Khalid Shaikh Mohammed, who stated, any dealings he had with Al Qaeda with Al Qaeda were through me. I used him for business dealings. He had no knowledge of any Al Qaeda links. Ammar is being linked to Al Qaeda because of me. As I also explained, only two prisoners, Abu Zubaydah and Abid al-Abam al-Nashi, brought the subject of torture. Although their statements were significant, Zubaydah said that he was tortured by CIA to admit that he worked with Osama bin Laden, but insisted, I'm not his partner and I'm not a member of Al Qaeda. He also said that his interrogators promised to return his diary to him, which contained evidence of his split personality, and explained that the refusal to do so affected him emotionally and triggered seizures. Speaking of his status as a high-value prisoner, he said that his only role was to operate a guest house used by those who were training at Kaldun. And speaking of his relationship with bin Laden, he said bin Laden wanted Al Qaeda to have control of Kaldun, but we refused since we had different ideas. He explained that he opposed the attacks on civilian targets, which brought him into conflict with bin Laden. And although he admitted that he had been an enemy of the U.S. since childhood because of his support for Israel, pointing out that his enmity was towards the government and the military and not the American people. His tribunal, al-Nashri, said that he made up stories that tied him to the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000 and confessed to the involvement of several other terror plots, including bombing of a French oil tanker in 2002, plans to bomb American ships in the Gulf, a plan to hijack a plane and crash into a ship, and claimed that Obama had a nuclear bomb in order to get his captors to stop torturing him. From the time I was arrested 5 years ago, he said they had been torturing me. It happened during interviews. One time they tortured me one way, and another time they tortured me in a different way. I just said those things to make people happy. They were very unhappy when I told them those things. They were very happy when I told them those things. In February 2008, the alleged 9/11 co-conspirators were put forward for a trial by military commission, as I explained in the article at time. The Guantánamo charged with 9/11 murders. Why not? Why now? And what about the torture? The sixth man, Mohammed al-Qahtani, specifically tortured in Guantanamo, against whom the charges were eventually dropped. As pre-trial hearings took place, KSM demonstrated an ability to undermine the proceedings and to slyly speak about the torture to which he and the others had been subjected. As I explained here, and also here and here. Also in 2008, al-Nashri was charged, although when President Obama took the office, the commission process was frozen while a new administration worked out how to proceed. In April 2009, while this was happening, there was another damaging development for the U.S. when a harrowing report about the experience of the HVDs complied by the International Committee of the Red Cross in February 2007 and submitted to the government after ICRC representatives had been allowed to interview the men we leaked to the New York Review of Books. Nevertheless, the men themselves remained silent, as I explained in articles yesterday about Abu Zubaydah. Since arriving at Guantanamo with all the HVDs, every word he has uttered to his lawyers has remained classified, in contrast to all the other men held for non-HVDs, although every word uttered between prisoners and their attorneys is presumptively classified. The attorneys submit notes of their meetings to a Pentagon censorship team, the privilege review team, which then decides whether the notes should be unclassified. Over the years, a significant amount of the information has been unclassified by the privilege review team, but the HVDs are an exception as the Pentagon continues to try to silence them. Outrageously, this enforced silence has maintained ever since, as the military and the Obama administration continue to try to hide evidence of the men's torture. One way forward would have been tried the men in federal court and to make whatever case was possible without reference to the use of torture. But although Ahmed Galani was moved to the U.S. mainland for a trial in May 2009 and was successfully prosecuted and sentenced, lawmakers soon acted to ban any further transfers, and although Attorney Eric Holder announced in November 2009 that the 9/11 trial would take place in federal court in New York, the administration also ill-advisedly revived the military commissions, and when cynical opposition was mounted to the 9/11 trial plan, President Obama shamefully bowed to the pressure and dropped it. What an Uncle Tom. Probably he loved it anyway. He just wants to let everyone know, yes, I am a teleprompter reading stooge, and I am owned by the New World Order. Just another example. Since then, the 6 men charged in the military commission is at 9/11-5, and Abid al-Ramin al-Nashiri have been stuck in a horrible, dark, farcical limbo as their lawyers seek to expose evidence of torture, while the government's lawyers continue to do all they can to prevent this happening, even though in December 2014, the 500-page executive summary of the Senate Intelligence Committee's report into the CIA torture program was published, which revealed shocking new information about the program, including rectal feeding, which was horrible as it sounds. As the committee explained, the CIA torture program was, amongst other findings, not an effective means of acquiring intelligence or gaining cooperation from detainees. In addition, the agency's justification for torture techniques rested in inaccurate claims of their effectiveness, and the interrogations of CIA detainees were brutal and far worse than the CIA represented to policymakers and others. As the rest of the 14, although one of them, Majid Khan, agreed to a plea deal in February 2012, but the details of that deal have never been fleshed out, and in the meantime, the other 6 men remain largely hidden, even in most cases forgotten until the last few months. They were given periodic review boards, a parole process designed to allow men who are not already approved for release of facing trials to make a case why they should be released. And there's a lot of links here too. It says here, see Somali high-value detainees held in CIA torture prisons seek release from Guantánamo via review board. 2 Malaysian high-value detainees seek release from Guantánamo via periodic review boards. Guantánamo high-value detainee Abu Farjah al-Labi seeks release via periodic review board. High-value detainee Hambali seeks release from Guantánamo via periodic review board, and torture victim Abu Zubaydah, seen for the first time in 14 years, seeks release from Guantánamo. Although bear in mind that it is unlikely any of them will be approved for release, even though overall the PRBs have since January 2014 approved 33 men out of 52 for release. 10 years on, as we look at the cases of the high-value detainees, it is only appropriate to conclude that justice remains as elusive for them as it did when they were hidden from the world before their arrival at Guantánamo in the CIA black sites that should never have existed. Exactly. Interesting stuff, because why do all these runarounds, keep these people detained without due process? It's completely ludicrously unacceptable. Give them their damn trials. But how many of them are getting tortured or getting shots and so forth, and stuff they're putting in their bodies could be mind controlled? They could be zombies for all we know. This is why I'm a freedom lover, sovereign thinker, man. I just really, just stuff like this really just gets my goat. If people still believe that they get tortured and waterboarded, do it yourself. Let's see how far you go. I remember some of those clowns like Dick Cheney and what's that bimbo's name? Michelle Bachmann talking about that. You know what? Put them in there. Let's see how tough they really are. If you don't have a case, you don't have any merit, you let these people go. I can't say bastards because can't make any judgment, but let them go. Do the trials. No ands, ifs, or buts for the rest of them. That's why we have the Bill of Rights. Right to a fair trial, correct? Yeah. Not just stay there until you're old and crippled and people will forget you. No way in hell. Guarantee you that. All right. Next one. Those came actually from Blacklisted News, but antimedia.org and Countercurrent News did the same thing. It says here, restraining order filed as pipeline company begins bulldozing burial sites over weekend. So everyone enjoying Labor Day, that's what's been happening. In the last-ditch attempt to protect burial and prayer sites, North Dakota Standing Rock Sioux late Sunday filed for temporary restraining order to halt construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline, which they said has already caused irreparable harm to the sacred plots. On Saturday, Dakota Access Pipeline and Energy Transfer Partners brazenly used bulldozers to destroy our burial sites, prayer sites, and culturally significant artifacts, said Tribal Chairman David Archibald II in a press statement. They did this on a holiday weekend, one day after we filed court papers identifying these sacred sites, Archibald added. The desecration of these ancient places has already caused the Standing Rock Sioux irreparable harm. We're asking the court to halt this path of destruction. The emergency motion came after security forces hired by pipeline companies attacked indigenous demonstrators with dogs and pepper spray on Saturday. In a Facebook post on Sunday, tribal member and activist Linda Black Elk said that it is clear that the pipeline company is trying to provoke the peaceful resistors to violence. Black Elk wrote, just to recap on Friday, the Standing Rock Nation filed papers challenging Dakota access permits from the Army Corps of Engineers because in a recent survey of the area, the tribe found many incredibly sacred sites, including burial sites, directly in the path of the proposed pipeline. Tribe has never been allowed to survey these areas before, so they hadn't been able to document these sites. Today, barely 24 hours after those papers were filed, Dakota Access used bulldozers to destroy those sites. It was absolute destruction. One moment. They literally bulldozed the ancestors right out of the ground along with destroying tippy rigs and cairns. They did all of this while assaulting peaceful resistors using vicious dogs, tear gas, and pepper spray. There's only one conclusion, Black Elk added. They are attempting to provoke us to violence. The ongoing tribal protest against Dakota Access Pipeline has drawn thousands of supporters, including representatives from more than 200 tribes, garnered increasing media attention, and a federal judge is currently weighing whether this construction should be stopped altogether in response to the complaint filed by the tribe, which argues that the United States Army Corps of Engineers approved the project without their consent. The decision is expected by September 9th. The tribe has been seeking to vindicate its rights peacefully through the courts, but Dakota Access Pipeline used evidence submitted to the court as their road ramp for what to bulldoze. That's just wrong, says John Hazelman, attorney for the Standing Rock Sioux. Destroying the tribe's sacred places over a holiday weekend while the judge is considering whether to block the pipeline shows a flagrant disregard for the legal process, Hazelman added. LaDonna Brave Bull Allard, Historic Preservation Office for Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, Section 106, noted in a piece published at Yes magazine that of 380 archaeological sites that face desecration along the entire pipeline route from North Dakota to Illinois, 26 of them are right here at the confluence of these two rivers, the Cannonball and the Missouri. Is a historic trading ground, Brave Bull Allard wrote, a place held sacred not only by Sioux nations, but also the Arikara, the Mandan, and the Northern Cheyenne. What's more, she highlighted this latest affront is part of a legacy of the U.S. government erasing indigenous culture through the destruction of their sacred sites. The U.S. government is wiping out our most important cultural and spiritual areas and is erases our footprints from the world. It erases us as a people, she continued. These sites must be protected or our world will end. It's that simple. Our young people have the right to know who they are. They have the right to language, to culture, to tradition. The way they learn things is through connection to our lands and our history. Finally, she posed the question, if we allow an oil company to dig through and destroy our histories, our ancestors, our hearts and souls, is that not genocide? I have to agree with her on this. What would happen if an oil company or big some corporation wants to bulldoze the U.S. military cemeteries, national cemeteries for the military, or your burial grounds where your families are laid to rest, your loved ones, or demolish the catacombs of the deceased? How would you feel? It's just another example, I would say, in my personal view, is the Club of Rome agenda. Let's clash with civilizations, destroy each other's heritage, and become part of the one world order. I could be wrong. That's how I examine this. And this is totally unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. And treasonous if the Dakota Access Pipeline is involved in this. Heritage, history, culture is essential and righteous, regardless of where you're from. If you destroy one particular group or their history, who's going to be next? It's just an example trying to galvanize the world. They're not doing it just in Europe. North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Australia, the entire world. I won't say this is capitalism. It's not open free market. Don't even get that in your heads. This is just plain treason on what based on this article. Because I always like to study other cultures, heritage, and history. It's like when we talk about the Aryan race. Everyone thinks the Nazis started the Aryan race. No. It means noblemen. And of course, the Krishnas talk about the Aryan race as well. Just to give you an example. And a lot of the African descent and heritage have been destroyed. Now they give people, African Americans, just regular European names. That's not right either. This is why I'm always very touchy in these areas and vigilant. I recommend the Dakota Access Pipeline and Energy Transfer Partners to recant what you're doing. It will haunt you. It will blow back in your faces when least expect it. If that occurs, if you're going to continue this monstrosity, look in the mirror before pointing the finger. And I expect this. Spiritually, you get a lot more we can chew on. I'll guarantee you that. And everyone out there, support the brothers and sisters, Native American brothers and sisters on this. If you're out in the fields, reporting it, sharing this information with everybody. I know I've done this one before, talk about it beforehand, so my past few episodes. I'm trying to stay focused, and anyone that have any latest headline, any reports, send it to me. I'll give you all the information like I do all the time. You can hit my Spreaker page, you can send it there too. Okay? All right. Next. Actually came from Breitbart News. And of course, Blacklisted News. Doug Owen, yeah, he's okay in my book. I haven't really, I like to meet him in person one day. We're Facebook pen pals, okay? That's pretty cool. And we follow each other on Twitter. This is here. Obama, internet cannot be like Wild Wild West. Is that from the heart or from his teleprompter? Let's just see what he says here. President Barack Obama called for a series of international agreements to regulate activity on the internet, citing his preference not to run an arms race in cyberspace. Oh, but him using drones is okay. The Obama way. Real men are bend over bobs. The Obama way. Okay, I will continue on. What we cannot do is have a situation which is suddenly this becomes the wild, wild west. President said during a press conference in China on Monday after the G20 summit, referring to every country using the internet as they wished, including using it to hack into other countries' data. But if the NSA does it, that's okay. Obama asserted, however, that American was winning the internet battle despite repeated hacks into the data controlled by the United States. Frankly, we've got more capacity than anybody, both offensively and defensively, he said, referring to a growing escalation of cyber capabilities from other governments. He added that he wanted to avoid an arms race in cyberspace, but rather institute international norms so that everybody is acting responsibly. Journalists questioned the president about recent reports that Russian hackers had hacked into voters' elections data. While he admitted Russia and other countries had made hacking attempts in the past, he declined to discuss the reports in detail, citing an ongoing investigation. Well, well, well. Regulate, regulate, rah, rah, rah. Your Lord and Savior, Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, just another bend over Bob to the New World Order, trying to tell you that we cannot have open, free access to the internet and use it with our own consent. We have to regulate because of the cyberspace, but he can do it. That's okay because his master says, you better say that. He would, okay, master. That's how he thinks. But just another example. It's the deception goes on, my friends. And I'll be right back in a moment. So I'll be sticking by. Stay tuned. Whoops, I hit the pause button. All right, that's all cool. So I'm just gonna see here. What's gonna be what I got here? Ooh, yeah. This one came originally from Health Nut, but Health Nut News. Very disturbing. And yes, actually came from originally Red Flag News and federalregister.net.gov. So it's claimed it's not a hoax. This one's here is an update. CDC proposed rule to apprehend and detain anyone, anywhere, at any time for any duration without due process or right of appeal, and administered forced vaccines. All hail to all hail to involuntary servitude. This is by Erin Elizabeth, and she's an update here. It says, thank you to the handful who questioned the article. We posted most before reading it because a biased blog who has got caught lying before said it was a hoax. Sadly, it is very real. We should never stop using our brains or ignore the truth. So because so many of you have wondered, I try to clarify things a bit more. And again, you can go and check out the entire proposal, which is posted here for yourself. So folks, check it out. We're making a few additional notes before the real shocker below. You can scroll down to if you like. One, the hoax seems confused that the document hundreds of pages long doesn't mention forced vaccination, but it does. Two, yes, the CDC is proposing a rule change reference domestic, interstate, and foreign quarantine regulations. They claim the reason they want to update what they're allowed to do is because of the worldwide Ebola outbreak. Well, stop killing each other for goodness sakes, you bunch of yahoos. reaffirmed that, but also cautioned that it would be used easy for them and likely that they might feel free to add any communicable disease to their list, as we also outline which diseases they were currently concerned about. Of note, we actually have a friend who had measles and the CDC put her under quarantine. Please remember, healthy adults and children have no reason to fear the measles. 3. The CDC currently has the authority to promulgate regulations which protect U.S. public health from communicable diseases, including coronable communicable diseases as specified by an executive order of the President that has never been in question. The issue lies with overreach and their decision about who is sick and not sick. The fact that they can decide you are sick or have been exposed, even if you haven't, is a slippery slope. So especially for an organization who are known to have lied about important studies that directly impact public health. There's a link for that too, so please, folks, check this out. 4. Here is a major issue as we see it. Snoops, the bloggers that have been inaccurate in their failed debunking attempts in the past, claims in section explaining the rationale behind the NPRM, the DHHS specifically stated that it included due process provisions to ensure that individual civil liberties would be well balanced against proposed measures to protect public health. However, the proposal clearly stated that they don't have to let you go after they have explained the reasons for issuing the order, administrative processes for appalling the order, and a mandatory reassessment of the order. So they're going to sell you a wet dream. Number 1, in fact, they said individuals who violate the terms of the agreement or the terms of the federal order for quarantine, isolation, or conditional release, even if no agreement is in place between the individual and the government, he or she may be subject to criminal penalties. 2. When an apprehension occurs, the individual is not free to leave or discontinue his or her health discussion with his HHS, CDC, public health, or quarantine officer. 3. Because ultimately CDC may enter into agreement with an individual upon such terms as the CDC considers to be reasonably necessary, indicating that the individual's consent to any of the public health measures authorized under this part include quarantine, isolations, and conditional release, medical examination, hospitalization, and vaccination and treatment. Propose that the individual's consent shall have not be considered as a prerequisite, to an exercise of any part authority under this part. 4. The idea that our government states can detain and quarantine us is nothing new, and we didn't say it was. However, this corrupt, dirty, and far-fetched organization being able to recommend who should be detained and how they execute that power is another story. We hope this clears up any questions you might all have. We reported this news to let you all know, what hasn't been made public, not to promote fear. We have no reason to try and make you afraid because we know our people are always after the truth. We know you have no reason or desire to bury your heads in the sand. Here's the story we originally broke last week to the health world. This news should be in the front page of every paper in the U.S. and the top news story on every channel, because if the CDC gets their way, you can kiss your rights to due process goodbye. This is no joke. The Centers for Disease Control, hereafter referred to as the CDC, has proposed a rule and given the public until October 14, 2016 to comment, giving them the power to apprehend and detain anyone, anywhere, at any time without due process or any right of appeal, to hold them or entire groups, cities in quarantine for as long as they want, and forcibly vaccine them if needed. You may not refuse them, and you may not leave. Make no mistake, this is tyranny. I say effing treason. From the article, individuals who violate the terms of the agreement or the terms of the federal order for quarantine, isolation, or conditional release, even if no agreement is in place between the individual and the government, he or she may be subject to criminal penalties. The CDC has currently listed the communicable disease they are trying to protect the public from as measles, tuberculosis, rabies, meningococcal disease, varicella, pertussis, rubella, viral hemorrhagic fevers, Middle East respiratory syndrome, and coronavirus, which is MERS. However, do not think for a moment that this is beyond them to suddenly review and sneak in any other disease they have vaccination for onto this list. To read for the entire proposal, every American should click here as a link for that. It is imperative that we understand the CDC is giving its power to forcibly apprehend healthy people in mass and detain them indefinitely with no process of appeal. Read about the appeal details above. When an apprehension occurs, the individual is not free to leave or discontinue his or her discussion with an HHS, CDC, public health, or quarantine officer. So the whole thing is they can try to shove this down your throat and incriminate you or make you criminate yourself. Our friends at Flag News have outlined the CDC's three-stage process for us. 1. Your city group are declared pre-communicable. 2. You are apprehended and detained. 3. You are ordered to isolation, quarantine, or given a conditional release. Stage 1. CDC defines pre-communicable stage mean the stage beginning upon an individual's earliest opportunity for exposure to an infectious agent. The CDC doesn't need to have medical proof that you or your city is pre-communicable. Rather, all that is required is for someone to say you or your city has an opportunity for exposure, meaning you could be perfectly healthy again. Again, you will have zero due process to prove otherwise. You are completely at their will. Stage 2. As if stage 1 wasn't terrifying, stage 2 is where stuff can get really dark for us, as the CDC has unlimited and unchecked authority. They've explained how they generally expect things to work, but they have also clearly stated their decision making is open-ended. You have no say, so you're just a number, a horror bag, a dominant, an Uncle Tom or Aunt Jemima. And I'll continue on. In fact, to understand how the CDC's concept of unlimited citywide apprehension and detention would play out, watch the CDC's 2011 propaganda movie, Contagion. Click here for the CDC's press release about the film. Interesting. 3. Another one too was The Crazies. The original one, by the way, is better than the remake. The remake is okay, but the original one's real better. 3. From the article, if an order of isolation, quarantine, or conditional release is issued, the CDC gives those so ordered one chance in the first 72 hours to ask CDC to change their minds, after which unlimited detention is again on the table. Remember, you can ask, but they don't have to answer you, let you go, and are not required to any further discussions on the matter. Period. That was unlimited power looks like, all in the name of public health, or perhaps in the name of money for Big Pharma, because it is looking more and more like this is what they are ultimately after. From the RFN, Red Flag News, CDC may enter into agreement with an individual upon such terms as the CDC considers to reasonably necessary, indicating that the individual's consent to any of the public health measures authorized under this part, including quarantine, isolation, conditional release, medical examination, hospitalization, vaccination, and treatment, provided that the individual's consent shall not be considered or as exquisite to any exercise of any authority under this part. It is reasonable to even expect the CDC may soon create their own armed police force to carry these actions out. It can't be far off. To make sure to let the CDC know how you feel about this tyranny by visiting the site, They have unfortunately proven not to be trustworthy, and we must fight against any possibility or the state forcibly quarantining or vaccinating us. Please spread the word. This info is all public record and comes from government and CDC websites with links included. Use your voice while you still have the right. I'd like to thank Red Flag News and federalregister.gov for putting this out. And of course, Erin Elizabeth from Health Nut News. Anyone with this frame of mind should be charged for treason, racketeering, espionage, and RICO. I haven't seen the movie Conagayan, so I can't make any judgment on that. But everyone needs to spread this word because this is far, far treacherous. Don't follow the fear, the hoopla, like this whole Zika virus. It's a bald-faced lie. They're spraying this thing called NALD around areas around the country. Sometimes, if something like that, if someone comes from your property and spray that, that's an act of war, as far as I'm concerned. And a little rebellion now and then is good, what Thomas Jefferson once said. Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. He made that quote as well. Doesn't matter what your belief system is, but it affects all of us within this country. I urge everyone to spread this out. Petition. Let these folks know. Send this to your local state governments as well. This is a form of martial law. And have us all detained. They call us terrorists. Now, I expect you to have to use that rhetoric. Anyone that declines or resists, they're terrorists. They're the enemy. Well, the one person says one person's terrorist, the other one's freedom fighter. Anyone in CDC is supporting this, you're gonna get a lot more you can chew on, and it may affect your families. We like that. Rather, if you're foreigners or citizens or working for this institution, you want it to happen to your families? I don't. You better have a conscience. Tell the CDC to stick it, even the ones who work for this particular entity. All right, next one here. Came out a couple of days ago from Natural News. I know I talked about this before. It's happening down in Miami Shores. It says here, watch out, Florida residents being fined for growing vegetables on their own properties by Samantha Debbie. Florida may be known for its tropical climate and spicy Latin American culture, but what is not known is for freedom to garden. Southern state continues to make headlines over the state government's contempt for front yard gardens. Tom Carroll and Hermaine Ricketts have been cultivating their garden for 17 years with their in their hometown. Miami Shores passed a new ordinance restricting vegetable growing to the backyard. The couple begrudgingly dug up their lush garden in August 2013 after local officials threatened them with a daily fine of $50 according to reporting by Fox News. So those little Uncle Toms would say, "You can't do that. I have to fine you. If not, I'm not going to have a job." All right, says here, Miami Shores fights longtime resident over a front yard vegetable garden. The ordinance was a component of a new zoning plan adopted by the town, which has a population of 10,500 people, just located north of Miami. The South Florida couple sued over the garden ban, arguing that there was a violation of the state's constitution because it included improper limits on their property rights and the violation equal protection clause by singling out vegetables over other parts. Yeah, you can say Article 1, Section 2, basic rights. That's a Florida Constitution called Basic Rights. Look it up. The couple's attorneys argued at a hearing in June 2016 that barring them from growing vegetables anywhere on their property violate the constitutional rights. We're not saying we're not saying you can do anything you want in your property, Attorney Ari Bagari told Miami-Dade Circuit Judge Monica Gardo. We are simply saying you can grow vegetables on your property and that's protected by the Constitution. Growing vegetables is not a fundamental right, says community lawyer. What a bend over, what a butt boy. Oh, Richard Seraphan. Yep, another butt boy. I like to meet him. Like, hey, how's it feel being a bend over Bob? The attorney of Miami Shores countered that the zoning rule was not irrational and treated all homeowners the same. Their front yard should be covered with grass, sod, or a living ground cover, not further defined. It is no problem, he said, to have vegetables in the backyard, according to reports. But you can't have it in your front yard. Please. There certainly is not a fundamental right to grow vegetables in the front yard, Seraphin said. Aesthetics and uniformity are legitimate government purposes. Not every property can lawfully be used for every purpose. Okay, so you're gonna make a law I can't wipe my own ass? Time I wipe my own ass? Hey, until you learn to clean yours, council, shut up. On Thursday, August 25th, a Miami-Dade judge upheld the ruling indefinitely banning front yard gardens. Circuit Judge Monica Gordo, yep, another Aunt Jemima, congratulations, corporate bimbo, ruled that while she doesn't understand the argument that front yard gardens destroy aesthetics in neighborhoods, the city nonetheless has a right to ban them, according to the Miami Herald. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. You're a real constitutional literal, huh, there, Judge Gordo. Judge, the city has the right to decide front yard veggies make a neighborhood ugly. Given the high degree of deference that must be given to a democratically elected governmental body, Miami Shores ban vegetable gardens outside of the backyard past constitutional scrutiny, wrote Gardo. She's in the twilight zone. What she lives in? She lives in all concrete. The ruling is a big disappointment for the South Florida couple. We love to grow a variety of organic vegetables, including okra, kale, lettuce, onion, spinach, several varieties of cabbage. I'm about to go down there and meet them. I'm going to have to buy some when I head back there. I am disappointed by today's ruling, said Ricketts, whose legal battle with the city lasted 3 years long. My garden not only provided us with food, but it was also a beautiful and added charter to the community. I look forward to continuing this fight and ultimately winning so I can once again use my property productively instead of being forced to have a useless lawn. Meanwhile, the upscale community maintains the right to regulate the area's aesthetics. Vegetables are fine as long as they are out of sight, said the community's attorney at a hearing in June. A blow to property rights. The only recourse the couple has to ask the ordinance be revised or vote in new council members, said the judge. There's a thing called recall, too. You can recall that judge as well. They can petition the village council to change the ordinance. They can also support candidates for the council who agree with their view that the ordinance should be repealed, wrote Gordo. Good grief. What a corporate fool, man. This is a judge? Shit. Excuse my language here. If Hermaine and Tom wanted to grow fruits or flowers or display pink flamingos, Miami Shores would have been completely fine with it, said the couple's lawyers. Ari Bargle, a representative from the Institute for Justice, a libertarian law firm. They should be equally free to grow their food for their own consumption, which they did 17 years before the village forced them to uproot their very source of sustenance. The firm called the ruling a blow to property rights. I have to agree. Pretty damn pathetic when you have Uncle Tom's and Aunt Jemima's to the corporation. Yep. I got to call all those folks that the council that supported, the judge, Gordo, and their dumbed down attorney, Seraphan, whatever that dork's name is. Yeah, Seraphan. Richard Seraphan. Sissy. Article 1, Section 2. Your basic rights are your natural born rights are inalienable, including property rights. It's not a privilege. I don't get it, but what are these people on? Hairspray? Wow. Just another example, my friends, that government knows best. I think we should. I think everyone everyone in Miami Shores need to rally around Carol and Ricketts for this. They've been doing it for 17 years and now they can't do it. What makes the village so special? It's not. I've been to Miami Shores. Please, flamboyant at times. Whatever you folks do, support them. Even if you gotta donate money to them directly to fight this. Because if their rights get infringed, yours is next. It's called a domino effect. Recall's great, and anyone the councils that voted for this, they breached their oath of office, do a recall vote, which is under Chapter 100, if I'm correct, of the Florida statutes, and excuse me, vote their behinds out. They breached their oath of office under Article 2, Section 5 of the state constitution. I'm going to put that in there. I'm definitely going to add Article 1 of the Florida Constitution on this, okay? And that's all I'm going to say. I'm just getting a little bit tedious here. All right, here's another one. It came out today, right? I think it came out today. It says here, a purple-haired grandma lives in a treehouse. Now she's told it has to come down. Oh yeah, another one, another winner. Shawnee Chasser found a higher standard of living 25 years ago when she moved into a treehouse. Now she has to come down. A claustrophobic flower child with purple streaks in her gray and hair curls, Chasser spent last year fighting Miami-Dade County over fate of the wood cottage where she lives, nestled against the forked trunks of an oak and strangler fig wooded front yard in her late son's Miami Gardens home. That's near North Miami, if I'm correct, south of North Miami. To Chasser, it's a suburban Eden, preferable to the walls, windows, and air conditioning of the house. But the county says the open-air chateau was built illegally, it's unsafe, and must be demolished in the next 4 months. Chasser, who once marched from California to D.C. as part of an anti-nuclear arms protest, says that will never happen, setting up only in Miami showdown between a $7 billion government and 65-year-old grandmother who sells bags of organic popcorn at Whole Foods. I think that's in North Miami, if I'm correct. Please support her. I'm not taking down anything Chasser vowed during an interview. I'll chain myself from that treehouse. I'm not taking down anything. I'll chain myself to that treehouse, Shawnee Chasser. Chasser, who discovered her aversions to indoor living decades ago, has slept in a tree since 1992 after she moved her family back to Miami from California. Her brother, Ray Chasser, built her first abode at the Earth's End-Use Farm in Little Haiti, where he mounted a shanty on telephone poles and wrapped it around a Pithecel tree. Chasser later moved to her son's home on the corner of Northwest 135th Street near North Miami and commissioned a new cottage with curved wooden steps leading around the trees to a second story large enough to fit a double bed. The ground floor includes a kitchenette stocked with a mini oven and sink and a tiny circular living room cooled by a Home Depot ceiling fan. There are family pictures everywhere, books above a desk, and a small couch where a 2-month-old raccoon named Cooney sometimes stretches out lazily. Chasser, who walks around barefoot, says there's no better way to live. When I'm up in my treehouse in thunder, lightning, and rain, I am in heaven, Chasser said. There is nothing nicer, more spiritual, more wonderful. The college, which can't be seen from the street, is from the south side of Shawnee's Paradise on the corner of Be Here Now Street and Joshua's Way, an ode to her late son, who died inside a house in 2009 of a heart attack. The property, recently featured by Tiny House Giant Journey travel blog, is under a half-acre of wooded lawn stretch around man-made pond and waterfall and hiding from its surroundings behind a hedge. The home belongs to a land trust by Chasser's daughter. Chasser makes property available to tenants who want to rent rooms, a mini camper, or even set up tents in the front yard. Hey, I should go there. It's partly about sharing her simple life, but it helps pay the bills to along with perceived as Shawnee Green Thumb popcorn, which she produces and sells Whole Food stores around Florida. But everything changed about a year ago when someone called 311 to complain that Chancellor's was running the property like an apartment complex and campground in the middle of a single-family neighborhood. Chancellor, who says she's tight with her neighbors, blames a booted tenant. But an unexpected visit from the county code enforcement last September jarred the world. She was issued citation for illegally running a rooming house and work conducted at a property without permits, including pond, fountain, and cheeky hut, and the treehouse. This got to be the first time ever of somebody living in a treehouse. Ricardo Roy, a Miami-Dade Code Enforcement Division director. This got to be the first time of ever somebody living in a treehouse, said Roy, a Miami-Dade Code Enforcement Division director and 26-year county employee. Probably lived in the concretes as well. The county issues Chancellor the boat and specifically that she lived there. Roy says, but that is unsafe. Roy says South Florida has strict rules about building code because of the frequency of hurricanes and added that running water and electricity have to be installed with permits and inspections. So if you can't, so you have to have permission. It's a privilege. He said Chancellor is welcome to live in a legal treehouse, but code and unsafe structure inspectors looked at the cottage and found it constructed in a way that can't be brought up the county standards. This week, the county's unsafe structures board agreed and gave her 3 months to tear the treehouse down. Chancellor, who has already paid $3,000 fine, potentially faced more than $7,000 in additional liens, according to the county. They're creating a campground out there. You can't just go into a residential property and start charging outsiders to come in. We've got neighbors who've got to protect their rights also, Roy said. It's just a combination of situations that haven't been well thought out. Chancellor is incredulous. Her brother's treehouse in Miami is treated like a landmark and is included as official marketing material from the county's tourism bureau. It has also survived Hurricane Andrew. Chancellor says she can't afford to hire an engineer or architect to come help her bring property up to code. Plus, even if she could, she said the county tells her she would have to apply to the zoning department for permission to inhabit the units outside the main home on the property. Chancellor isn't giving up. The county's unsafe structures board allows for appeals and requests for additional hearings. And she said she's talking with her attorney, Shaleen Khan, and about her options. One non-starter, moving. Chancellor notes that the bags that carry Shawnee's Green Thumb popcorn celebrate a certain unusual style of living, and she doesn't want to be found guilty of false advertising. It says on the back that I lived in a treehouse, she said, so I have to keep living in the treehouse. Hey, if it's a tourist attraction, leave it up. Good grief. I'm about to go there, check it out myself. But it's pretty interesting. But it just really gets me at times. You know, with some people, they get a little bit too touchy. But it looks like it's probably the booted tenant. The neighbors don't mind. Doesn't bother them one bit. But you're going to have one of those hotshot, inspectors trying to tell you how to live, when to clean your butt, when to get laid, etc. Yes, hurricanes up to code is understandable, but she's not selling to anybody, right? Right, it's her own free will, I would say. I'm about to go there, see if I do a little camping just for like a couple of months. Have my tent, have my dog in there. That'd be pretty cool. So I'm about to check it out. That'd be pretty neat. But the whole thing is, my friends, give a little love. Go down there, support her, donate money, buy more popcorn from her. And even if you guys do a little kitty for your attorney, it'd be great too. Hopes and prayers for her, man. Keep up the good fight, Miss Chester. All right. Next one here is by LouRockwell.com. There's a couple of sites. This one is entitled All Football is Propaganda for the Welfare State. It says here, by Butler Schaefer, the Humanite Collective is in an unforgiving snit of the refusal of NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick to stand for the playing of the national anthem. For a society that was once grounded in a greater tolerance for individual values and preferences, this reaction is to another symptom of a system that it no longer serves, much less tolerates the diverse nature of human life. Why would an intelligent person in any country want to stand for and sing the national anthem? How would such an act contribute to the well-being of someone who is engaged in it? Let me state at the outset that in all matters relating to my conduct, I am a firm agnostic when it comes to evaluating the conduct of others expected me to follow. Consensus-based definitions of reality or propriety do not impress me. My mind will always insist upon asking my favorite word in the English language, the word that children ask of the adults in their lives until they are forced to abandon its use. Why? If you would, like me, follow a prescribed course of the behavior, please inform me on how my doing so would benefit me. For such reason, For such reasons, I do not stand or sing for the national anthem. I do not pledge allegiance to the state nor salute its most visual image, the flag. Neither do I snap detention on command, nor thank soldiers for their service in helping to kill innocent men and women and children in foreign lands. As one, I had not asked them to do so, and two, such a request on my part would have been an evil act. I do not recite the Lord's Prayer nor shout "Go Big Red" at football games. I am not hostile to such expressions and respect the liberty of others to do so because I know such words reflect what is of value to them. I I ask only that others respect my liberty to express myself in my chosen ways, a request Mr. Kaepernick now makes the rest of us. I do not fully accept Samuel Johnson's classic statement that patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. Were, he, were he around today, he might discover that it is not the last refuge, but more often the first. In order to understand the meaning of a patriotic babbling that is so prevalent, we should begin in analyzing what these expressions and practices mean. The Pledge of Allegiance is probably the first statist article of faith to which young children are introduced by Francis Bellamy, an avid socialist, and first published a Youth Companion in 1892. The meaning of this pledge is immediately obvious to anyone who bothers to think. While reciting the words, I declare my obedience to the American state, its visual symbols, and other trappings of state power. To emphasize the firmness of my pledge, my fellow students and I were required to salute the flag in the same stiff arm style that had become so prevalent in Germany. We do the salute during 1941-1942 at the government school to which I had been sentenced. Saluting the flag with another state-imposed obligations we were conditioned to perform. The absurdity of requiring people to salute brightly colored pieces of cloth was not fully brought home to me until my first year in undergraduate college. Male students at my schools were required to take 2 years of ROTC classes. In my class, taught by an Air Force major, we were told that when we were in our ROTC uniforms, we should walk past a flagpole flying an American flag, and we must stop and salute it. If we were not in uniform, we ought not to salute it, but it should be out of respect for the flag, a different route, so as not to walk past it. Such part of the lenity of lunacy. That's the purpose of academia and inculcate it in their conscripts. Let anyone think that dedication to statist patriotism would never be taken by more highly respected colleges and universities. Consider the recent contributions to collective madness provided by one of the better schools, Northwestern universities, in design of their football team's uniform. Super patriotism oozed from virtuality every stitch. I watched Northern University football game on a television a year or two ago and was sickened to see what depth of indecency the school had plummeted in the dressing of its players, from their helmets down to their shoes. Their uniforms were one lengthy American flag with simulated blood spatterings distributed at random. These uniforms were not simply bad taste, but pathological. Anyone who has attended a football game, be it high school, college, or professional, know that the sports long ago became an integral part of the war machine, with military color guards, uniformed soldiers, aerial death machine flying in close formation to thrill the assembled members of the Bulldozing and cannon sometimes used to celebrate touchdowns. The school marching band with flags flying then performed the national anthem, for which all but the rational in attendance had been conditioned to stand. The late George Carlton did a wonderful condition to stand. The late George Carlton did a wonderful performance on how nature rules and terminology of this game have a military character. While the national anthem plays a central role in the status, Walter Shomong, Walter Shikong Tong requires examination. I doubt that any of those who insist upon others publicly acknowledging the subservience of their individual souls to the state institutionalized powers of death and violence perform this ritual in their private lives. Television stations used to end their broadcasts with playing of this music, but I suspect that even more fervent boob hustler does not in this day, standing as the tune is played, our family birthday parties or Christmas morning gathering around a lightened tree prefaced by a video of the Marine Corps band's renditions. Do eager patriots listen to the national anthem or salute the flag before cleaning the garage or moving the lawn? Would those who say grace before a meal be inclined to substitute the Pledge of Allegiance or state of acknowledgement as a source of their blessings? The national anthem has its purpose, the creation and enforcement of the collective mindset essential to the war system. Its words penned by slave-owning anti-abolitionist Francis Scott Key, while the tunes derived from a British beer-drinking song. The anthem is one of the many anti-individual tools designed to sanctify mob thinking. The phrase communities matter, not individuals, in a book directed to children and published by Dorling Kindersley Limited, fortifies the hurting purposes of institutionalized schools. The success of conditioning was reflected in the response of a number of NFL executives, one of whom condemned Kaepernick as a traitor, while another declared that the player has no respect for our country, with a third remark about this collective dislike that his actions had generated. Put these three comments together and you begin to get the sense of the potential power that inheres in activities that bring tens of thousands of people together for any common purpose. And I can tell you this, those executives of the NFL, you guys sold your butts to the Homeland Security, a police state platform. So you know what? You're the traitors. You're the bastards. You're the ingrates. And I'm going to continue on here. Many years ago, I read an article written by a journalist reporting of one of Hitler's public synagogues. He had attached in a stadium upwards of 100,000 persons whose dark side had been unleashed by the Führer's anger, far-driven rhetoric. This writer commented on how difficult it was for him to resist the collective urge to raise his arm in unison with others. I am suggesting that sporting events, with their capacities to mobilize hostilities against the foe, along with flags, martial music, and aggressive slogans, are the moral equivalents of the well-organized mob baiting of destructive tyrants. Of course not. While fights, injuries, and even deaths occasionally occurred within the crowds at such events, most fans have just sound judgment to keep the game in perspective. I was born and raised in Nebraska, where attendance at home football game is indeed a religious experience, and yet when the game is over, Nebraska fans will stand and applaud the visiting team, and when the visitors had won, even when the visitors had won the game. The study of chaos reminds us that violence is not predictable from collective behavior, but it's implicit in it. What are the causative factors that transformed Germany from one of the most prolific contributors to civilized life? A world of such creative souls as Beethoven, Goethe, Einstein, Gutenberg, Bach, Copernicus, Kepler, among others, into practitioners of unrestrained war and dehumanizing death camps. What underlying forces were capable of bringing such destruction as quickly as they did? Can the rest of us, who like to pretend we are both individually and collectively immune from such a well-organized insanity, find insurance in our reserved systems? Can we grasp how words, abstractions, have neither existence nor meaning outside our minds, can be so crafted and manipulated to suit any end we wish to accomplish? that those with ambitions to converse power over others will insist upon consensus-based definitions of reality as a base from which to conduct their wars against others. Can history help us show that scapegoating did not begin such divisive words as non-Aryan? The fundamental nature of collective enemies can be found in witches, infidels, and traitors, among others. The advocates of Black Lives Matter and white supremacy are joined at the hip as recent contributors to the cause of collective power. A new scapegoat candidate is currently being sought in efforts to criminalize climate change deniers, along with whistleblowers who insist upon the right to speak the truth. An unintended consequence of forcibly institutionalizing society may prove to be the extinction of the human species. Arthur Koestler suggested that giving a killer ape intelligence may have been an evolutionary mistake whose outcome may place our species in history sorry about that, thus been a failed experiment alongside the dodo bird, the saber-toothed tiger, and the mastodon. Those who laugh at the demise of the dinosaurs might be humbled by the fact that unlike humans who may have been around for 1 million years, the dinosaurs thrived for 175 million years, perhaps in lacking possible, opposable thumbs. These early reptiles were unable to design the technologies and other tools that could be used for systematic slaughter of their brethren, thus prolonging the date for their extinction by other means. It took human intelligence to accomplish such ends. Was Koestler right? Are those who oppose war, police brutalities, torture, genocides, and other destroying attributes of a well-planned for, well-organized world traitors to our evolutionary destiny? As Dave Ormsby Gore commented, it would indeed be a tragedy if history of the human race proves to be nothing nobler than the story of an ape playing with a box of matches on a petrol dump. I prefer to think mankind as having to preconceive fate, but as a species whose varied individual interests combine with their spontaneous and self-directed characters to respond to nature's continuing demand for success, to be a changing person in a changing world for whom peace and inviolability of individual prevails. Mr. Schaefer is correct. We gotta learn to start thinking for ourselves, my friends, and not get caught in this mind control hype. And an example, football right now and sports in general have been a mind control tool, which is horrendous. It's horrible. Baseball, football, it's horrible. I like sports. Don't get me wrong; it's entertainment. A lot of good athletes, they get injured, they get banged up. Some of them get brain damage and dementia. I'm not, they made those decisions to play, but you gotta make this into a status sacrilegious form. That's what they're trying to make us do. And that's why this coming up, a week of September 11th, they're gonna do the same thing over and over and over again, and say we gotta be patriotic. I think everyone out there, these sporting events, should have these signs say "Death to the New World Order." 9/11 was a one world order agenda. It should be all over all these damn stadiums. And for Kaepernick, he has that choice. He spoke his mind. You know what? He isn't entitled to do it, like him or not. He sees tyranny. I can understand. I see it too. And they still want us to say the police state's okay as long as I got my football, baseball, basketball. Yes, as long as I got my sports, it's great. All right, I'm gonna chill a little bit, and I'll be back. Oops. Yep, I'll be back. Stay tuned. Yeah. All right, I got a couple more here, which I do find very, very interesting. So hopefully everyone's enjoying themselves. All right, this one here is from Ron Paul, and it was on LouRockwell.com again. And this one's entitled How to Solve the Immigration Problem. This is what Congressman Paul has to say. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's recent speech on immigration really missed the point. I understand Trump's frustration over the U.S. government's inability to control the U.S. borders and keep out those who would come to this country illegally. Trump was right that the media ignored legitimate questions we have on our immigration policy and he is right that special interests have a great interest in maintaining the status quo. However, when it comes to really solving the immigration problem, he gets it all wrong. Instead of making us more free and prosperous, his solutions will accelerate our downward slide toward authoritarianism. First, let's consider his idea of building a big wall between the U.S. and Mexico, and said that all one needs to get over an 8-foot fence is a 9-foot ladder, or perhaps a shovel. So walls are never very good at keeping people out, but they are very good at keeping people in. Just ask the East Germans. The communist government claimed in 1961 that it had built a wall around a portion of Berlin it controlled to keep the population safe from the evil capitalist wreckers and saboteurs. It didn't take long for the world to realize that the real threat to the East German leaders was that the people trapped in East Berlin would try to get out. We have all seen horrific videos of East German civilians risking and losing their lives to escape that prison of razor wire cinder block. And cinder block, right? Yeah. Is it really what we want for our future? What a wild conspiracy theory, some may claim. The wall would never be meant to keeping us from leaving. Well, ask the IRS. Under a tax enforcement provision passed in 2015, the U.S. government claimed the right to cancel any American citizen's passport if Washington claims it's its own money. Oh, yeah, that's nice, right? Trump also made E-Verify the center of his immigration speech. He said, "We will ensure that E-Verify is used to the fullest extent possible under existing law, and we will work with Congress to strengthen and expand its use across the country, while preventing those here illegally are being able to gain employment may appeal to many who would to protect American jobs." You should look at the prison labor too, my friends, I would say. E-Verify is the worst possible solution. It is a police state non-solution. It would require the rest of us legal Americans, citizens to carry a biometric national ID card connected to a government database prove that the government allows us to work. A false positive would result in a financial disaster for millions of American families, as one would be forced against a faceless government bureaucracy to correct the mistake. Want to put TSA in charge or to sign if you're eligible to work? Please. Because the battle against illegal immigration is a ploy to gain more control over our lives. We're supposed to be terrified of the hordes of Mexicans streaming into our country and thus grant the government new authority over the rest of us. But in fact, a Pew study found that between 2009 and 2014, there was a net loss of 140,000 Mexican immigrants in the United States. Yes, this is a government solution in search of a real problem. How to tackle the real immigration problem? Eliminate incentives for those who would come here to live off the rest of us and make it easier and more rational for those who wish to come here legally to contribute to our economy. No walls, no government databases, no biometric national ID cards, but not a penny in welfare for immigrants. Is that really that simple? So the whole thing is have merit, be ethical. That's what he's saying. Don't give them a dime. I agree. What's so hard about that? Oh my goodness. But even Donald Trump, I'll make you safe. I'm going to make you safe. And I'm like, how come you're not talking about freedom, liberty? No, but everyone still want to feel that hype with him too. And I got people, good friends of mine, trying to give me a hard time about this man. About we got to vote for him or Hillary, him or Hillary. I'm like, our vote for the presidency, I'll stress this again, doesn't count. The Electoral College makes that decision. He has good pointers, Mr. Trump, but He better need to look at the bigger picture. Because if he wins, he's going to inherit one big mess. There's no such thing as a magic lamp theory. To my fellow Trump supporters out there, or Donald Trump himself, question some of the rhetoric about safety, safety, safety. Did that mean tyranny, sir? Did that mean tyranny? You got to always think about that. And there's the people I know who came from other countries, including Honduras. Doesn't matter where to go. They've earned their merits. They did refuse to have the government be dependent by the federal government. They did it on their own base, free will, their terms, and boom, they got successful. Their families prosper. That's what we say merit. That includes everyone. And always support Dr. Paul's views overall. Over 90%, I would say. Because he does a good job. And that's why I support him twice. And many people laughed at me. Well, you know what? I got the bigger laugh. I'm laughing at every single one of you who talked ill about the man and you praise these neocons, bend over bobs and Aunt Jemimas, thought they could do a better job. And you know what? Now look what's happening. All right. Finally, came from the 10th Amendment Center. The daily update. It says here, ending the Department of Education would hardly be pure loss. It is by Neil McCluskey from the Cato Institute. Oh my goodness, the Cato Institute. Yeah, like, you know what? Focus on the information. It says here, the Center for American Progress Action Fund has sounded the alarm. Donald Trump's proposal to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education would be a pure loss because a lot of people use federal education money, lost jobs, lost college access, lost learning, which makes sense if you assume that the federal government miracles money into existence. People can't adjust to the changing circumstances, and the federal control can only help. Of course, the federal government does not just will money into existence. It does spend far more than it has. But sooner or later, someone is going to have to pay for that. And money arriving through taxation comes from people who may have used it for other, more productive things. Taxpayers may have spent it on new businesses or housing or food or lots of other things that would have potentially grown the economy and create new jobs. Or heck, just made them happier. So there are costs, maybe big ones, that CAPAF ignored, opportunity costs. Then are costs to dealing with ED demands. Yes, at CAPAF points out, the department has relatively small workforce, about 4,300 full-time equivalent employees. Woo! But that's in part because ED makes states do a lot of administrative heavy lifting, forcing them to hire a lot of bureaucrats. There are also sizable compliance costs that goes with federal programs. The latest availables could find where a 1998 report, pretty old, but that precedes that the No Child Left Behind Act, which greatly expanded federal management. That report suggests that for every dollar sent to Washington, only 85 cents made it back to the local districts. And noted that were nearly 3 times as many state employees being funded by federal money as AD employees. How would the ED be eliminated? While it is unclear how Trump would do it, details does not seem to be his thing. He would likely phase the department out, not just kill it all at once. Of course, he could just move the programs elsewhere in the federal bureaucracy. But assuming that by killing ED, he means to kill the programs, he would probably phase them out, leaving states, districts, colleges, and students time to adjust. And if he were to couple phasing out the programs with, say, proportionate tax relief, or even just a block grants to states, that money could still be used for education. It would not necessarily mean any lost teacher jobs, student aid, or anything else. It could just mean that instead of losing 15 cents in bureaucracy processing for each dollar, taxpayers could keep the whole buck. Would trimming, what we spent necessarily even be bad educationally? Signs pretty clearly point to no, as graph below shows, as well as the report of the on the SAT scores. Large spending increases haven't come too close producing consumer improvements in achievement, at least as measured by standardized tests or for high school kids. Those scores have essentially sat still. Same for staffing. In roughly the same period as covered in the graph, public schools went from 14 students per staff member to just 8 students, approaching a doubling of employee per child. Even the high school graduation rate, all full-time highs. That sounds so nice, aren't? CAPAF or CAPAF cited report based on only 4 years of data, and long-term data showed in 1969 to 70, close to when feds first got heavily involved in education. The average freshman graduate rate from high school was 78.7%. As of 2012 to 2013, the latest data on the chart, it was 81.9%, a hardly a huge increase, and possibly one inflated credit recovery. Other dubious practices. Oh, and the Fed's core states to adopt a single curriculum standard, the Common Core, only to see tremendous backlash after the public finally became aware of what had been foisted on them. At the very least, great political acrimony and stomach churning educational turbulence have been resulted. And there's a graph on that too. You can really check it out yourselves. The evidence of more of which can be found here, suggests that in K1 through 12, federal involvement may well be lost, not a gain. How about higher ed? Federal student aid, as it's becoming increasingly certain, has largely translated into skyrocketing prices, major non-completion, credential inflation, and big student debt. Hardly the pure affordability effect that the CA or CAPAF discusses. You can get more in depth on higher education here. There is a link for that. There is one other thing that ought to be mentioned, though it may seem passe. Washington has no constitutional authority to meddle in education outside of D.C. itself, federal installations, and prohibiting state and local discrimination in educational provision. Yet, the vast majority of ED does go far beyond those things. Ignoring the Constitution comes with costs all of its own, which CAPAF and everyone else may learn very quickly if there is a President Trump and he, among other things, unilaterally tries to change federal education policy, like President Obama. CAPAF portrays the U.S. Department of Education as all gain and is possible ending all pain. But there's a whole other side to federal education meddling costs, and they are big. If he does it, it will be a smooth transition. 10th Amendment guarantees states' rights, so who controls the education? The state, not the federal government. 4,300 employees in the Department of Education? That's pure nonsense. Come on, let's get rid of these damn people. If they get another job, they can work on the state level. If you want to do education, or the local level. Come on. So it wouldn't be a pure loss. And people won't have an anxiety attack if this happens. I'm not. I'm just going to enjoy every minute of it. Remember the Bill of Rights. Government keep out. 10th Amendment guaranteed. So education by the federal government is ruled unconstitutional. No ends, ifs, or buts. Well, my friends, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me information that I may find interesting, whatever you do, send all your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3 which is all together, lookyluck3 at gmail.com. Yep, so look at some people just moving stuff around. They're trying to get a room. Ha, but that's all good. So, hey, like I said, my friends, stay alert, be vigilant, and always have good faith. But always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.